I also wanted to thank Hovhanissian Eng, the head of our cultural committee and also a member of the board of trustees, for the great work he's performed putting this together. Tarik Sarafoğlu representing the Ladies Auxiliary, all the members of the executive board, and the United Armenian Council for providing us their name and doing this event under their auspices. And to all of those who, you mentioned a lot more names and you know who you are, for sake of time, and I hope you understand our gratitude. Hrant was here with us in Los Angeles a little more than 5 years ago. We had an intimate dinner with him, as based mainly Bolsa Ice at Sako's restaurant. Subsequently, he delivered speeches everywhere. This was October, November 2006. He spoke at the Western Prelacy, Western Diocese, the last evening before he departed, and for us to never see him again. He was a victim, of course, of hate, intolerance, things that he got upset the most about, things that he fought his whole life. And for someone like him, who truly loved his homeland, loved Anatolia, he was a victim. And the reason why he was a victim is not understandable, but then on the other hand, it is understandable to those who don't have to have conspiratorial minds. And I will discuss the process of why, who, and whether or not the judicial system is going to have an answer to what happened, even though most of us, if not all of us, know deep down in our hearts and minds what happened and why it happened, and it's still happening. His primary concerns when he was here, when we spoke to him as friends in person, was that the recognition of the atrocities, the mass deportation, forced exile, mass killings, rape, forced conversions, and material dispossession of Armenians from the land that had been their home, their homeland for over 2 millennia, which Armenians, we call it a genocide, along with many other nations. But his goal was to get to that truth through dialogue among the two nations, Turks and Armenians, as the victims, as he called it, of paranoia, and as victims of trauma. The first, the Turkish nation; the second, the Armenian nation. And he did that because both nations, just like him, he believed deep down, were lovers of the land we both call Anatolia. My job, as I said, is to give an update as to the murder trial of Ogin Samast, the trigger man. Due to his age, which was 17 at the time of the murder, he has been, and he has become, the unintended beneficiary of a change in the law, and therefore transferred to juvenile court, receiving the maximum available sentence of 20 years. But he will be eligible for parole much sooner than that. There are several others who are being tried as those who were co-conspirators, as those that orchestrated the murder. The trial, the legal proceedings have been going on for 4 years and 11 months. However, according to the Dink family, their attorneys, and many friends of Hrant Dink, those who were top-level planners are still not under investigation, nor there are genuine attempts to get into the real background of what happened. During the 20th session of the trial, the prosecutor of the case at the present time, Hikmet Usta, announced that he was going to proceed with the final arguments as to those which are all low-level, perhaps mid-level according to the Ding family, who are an intervener in the case. Unlike the US judicial system in Turkey, private parties, groups can intervene in a criminal case. So that's why when I make references to Hrant Dink's family and their lawyers, it's within that context as interveners. And through their attorneys, they protested the decision to not move into the investigation phase as to higher level conspirators. Consequently, the lawyers for the interveners, the Hrant Dink lawyers, left the courtroom in protest and invited the prosecutor to perform his duty, and subsequently in papers filed with the court, and you can find this on the internet or speak to me afterwards if you want more information, provided a list of acts of negligence and nonfeasance. And I'm using that term in the best of light. I don't want to say malfeasance, but these at a bare minimum nonfeasance by many, many officials. By the police force, intelligence units, the executive branch, the judiciary, and the media. They further referenced the atmosphere immediately following Hrant's Agos article regarding the undisclosed background of Sabiha Gökçen according to Hrant's own investigation on February 6, 2004. The follow-up article in Hürriyet, the newspaper, on February 21st, 2004, which reprinted it in a very hostile manner, and followed by a statement from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff's office, stating that, quote, "This news article is an attack on our national unity." As Hrant told us publicly, privately, many, many, many times, in various occasions, he was subject to major intimidation following those events, and was called into the governor's office only to be met by 2 secret intelligence officers, and then provocative news in the media followed, and death threats from the ultra-nationalist groups also came. There have been, on a positive light, there have been prosecutions involving those who protected and glorified the trigger man, Ogin Samast. Some of you may have seen those pictures that they took with them after his arrest, putting their arms around him, the flag, and they were treating him well. And in response to the marches in Istanbul, where thousands and thousands of Turks marched, just symbolically saying, "We are Hrant Dinks, we are Armenian today," there were repercussions saying, "We are all Ogin Samas." There was a soccer game where the fans chanted that. Again, those were in the immediate aftermath, and since 2008, and at some point there was an appeal made to the European Court of Human Rights, and there was a decision by them instructing the government and the judiciary to provide due process to get to the bottom of it. I don't know what did it, but since 2008, there has been a major improvement. And the vice governor who threatened Hrant was reassigned to the province of Çorum, which would be viewed as a demotion. However, for some reason, that move was suspended and he stayed in Istanbul, but not in his position. Colonel Ali Öz, he was the head of the Gendarmerie military unit in Trabzon, along with another military officer, was sentenced to 6 months for negligence while on duty, and others were given 4-month sentences. This was on June 2nd, 2008. However, many defendants have been released. The latest hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, 2 days from now, 17th of January, and the judge has asked all participants to be present, and he will most likely announce a final decision or verdict. Fethiye Çetin, the attorney for Dink, whom you know from her book, my grandmother, now she has one about her, the cold grandchildren, which are Turks who now are discovering that they have a grandparent who is Armenian. She is still pushing, and she doesn't want it to move to the decision phase because they want telephone records of all communications within the vicinity of where Agos newspaper was located, where Hrant Dink was killed, assassinated. And there's been big resistance to that from all sorts of people, including the telephone company. They claim it violates privacy, but she has produced substantial evidence that shows that there were at least 19 communications between defendants who were co-conspirators of the trigger man, Mustafa Öztürk and Sahil Ajisal Salihoğlu. And we're awaiting a decision on that. And in the meantime, the number 2 defendant, the person who's the number 2 under this Yasin Hayal, who was the one who got Ogun to do what he did, has been complaining that he's receiving death threats by groups and instigators, and he associates them with the deep state, and he says these are the people who hired us, these are the people who motivated us, these are the people who made us do this. So that's a side thing going on. We don't know where it's going to lead. There's of course the Ergenekon connection, big investigation over all sorts of deep state activities in Turkey, and I don't have time to get into it, but the possibility that the Hrant Dink murder trial will be tied into the Ergenekon process, because as evidence is discovered there, it shows the people who are defendants there had their role to play, and this may lead to us getting a better answer as to what happened. The real killers and those who masterminded this major crime against humanity are still free, and presumably not under investigation. That's a fact. Thousands and thousands of citizens continue to protest in Turkey, and Turkey is going through a major democratization process, and we must remain optimistic, because the alternative, there's nothing there. As Hrant always warned us, as Hrant said, the true dialogue, redress, and perhaps reconciliation will only take place when Turkey is fully democratic. He had a dream that once a fully democratic Turkey and a fully democratic Republic of Armenia are co-members of the European Union, they will be able to become the healers and the medicine for each other. And the way that will provide and facilitate the communication, dialogue, and understanding among peoples, not from top to bottom, top down, but from bottom up, to try at least to heal the wounds. And there is one person that I know who can lead to a fully democratic Armenia. He is a member of the parliament of the Republic of Armenia. He was the first foreign minister of the Republic of Armenia. He truly represents the bottom-to-up spirit, the dreams and aspirations of the regular people and citizens of Armenia. It's my honor to call Minassian Hovhanissian to give us a talk.
It's been 5 years, almost, since the tragic, shameful, treacherous assassination of the conscience of the Armenian nation. Hrant Dink was a man apart, a patriotic Armenian born on his and our historic homeland, of which our generations were deprived because of what befell us up to and in the year 1915. Hrant Dink knew, as all of us, of all generations, in Armenia and in the diaspora, that what we lost nearly 1 century ago was something far greater than genocide or Holocaust or dispossession. It was the loss not only of lives, but of a civilization, a way of life, a culture, institutions, hospitals, churches, schools, academies, songs and dances. And what can make us whole after that loss? For those who debate the application of the word genocide, I welcome the debate, but we've got to find a word that is greater and higher and more comprehensive, because what the Armenians lost was far greater than 1 million lives. And so in Hrant's struggle, in his life and in his death, in the humility of his demeanor, in his outreach to his Turkish neighbors and his Armenian compatriots. He knew that it was the truth that would set us all free. Armenians and Turks would emancipate us from the great burdens of history, burdens that resulted in the forcible dispossession of the Armenian nation and our extermination, our removal from the historic Armenian patrimony. And Hrant looked about him and said, what are we as Armenians in Turkey and around the world going to do about it? And he reached out to his Turkish colleagues and friends and neighbors and people of good conscience and said, what are you going to do about it? What is the Turkish nation today going to do about the dispossession of an entire people from their homeland and the decimation of a civilization? My grandmother, among many grandmothers, were saved by Turkish families of good conscience. But unfortunately, their stories, their heroic tales, have not been told because of the official dialectic, the official policy of denial in the Republic of Turkey. And while today, Hrant Dink's legal team talks about the withholding of evidence, there are human rights activists, Zaraklu and others, who are still in jail. We are very blessed that in Turkey we have a very brave generation of scholars and researchers and citizens and human rights activists who are proclaiming their Turkishness by saying it happened, by saying we were wrong, by questioning the official line. And there's nothing shameful in that, because it is that truth, it is the triumph of that generation, of that methodology, which might not be mainstream today, but will come to the fore tomorrow, that will bring Turkey to the democratic front lines and will allow Turkey to face its history itself and to normalize relations with Armenia and its neighbors. We salute all the Turks and Kurds and Alawis and others of good conscience who saved individual grandmothers and grandfathers who were children at the time, 96 years ago. We salute those who, against the grain, against great odds, are pursuing the truth and understand that there can be no true and final reconciliation without the truth. Who understand that part of the deep state might be in jail today, but why are the real masterminds not on trial? Why is there a question of evidence of bringing closure to the Hrant Dink case 5 years after the great tragedy? Is the deep state also a little bit outside jail today? And what will Turkey and its citizens of good conscience do about it and making Turkey whole and making Armenia whole? Because as we speak about justice, we understand that justice must be based on earnest remorse and meaningful restitution. We can never receive that which we lost, but a meaningful restitution which, in the spirit of the Hrant Dink revolution of the mind and the heart, means a coming together of the Armenian person, the Armenian human, the Armenian man and woman with the Armenian land. And any settlement between Armenia and Turkey, the Armenian and Turkish peoples, must be based on a systematic, guaranteed solution that permits for and which ensures the connection of the Armenian people with their historic and contemporary patrimony. I don't believe in preconditions. I don't believe in preaching to the choir or coming up with ultimatum. But either the two nations and the two republics move forward without preconditions and forge a settlement, a comprehensive settlement to the genocide, the more than genocide and its consequences, use the diplomatic relationship to resolve the outstanding issues among them, or we can all each in our own corners, in our capitals, in our embassies, in front of our own people where it's easy to talk, posit preconditions one to the other. But there is a bottom line, and that bottom line was set forth by Hrant Dink. No reconciliation without truth, no justice without remorse and restitution, and an ultimate connection between the Armenian people and their land. I speak for myself today. I don't speak on behalf of Armenia. I don't speak on behalf of the Heritage Party or diaspora. And I don't believe that anybody has the right or the monopoly on interpreting Hrant Dink 5 years after his passing. His widow Raquel, their family, their foundation have done wonderful work in terms of protecting the legacy, bearing the torch, pursuing dialogue, and celebrating the life and grieving over the death of Hrant Dink. Raquel perhaps has the right to speak on behalf of the family and the children as well. But 5 years later, let's none of us pontificate in the name of Hrant Dink, but try to live out our lives in his spirit of humility, respect for the truth and justice, and an abiding faith that the conscientious soul of society in Turkey and Armenia will bring a day where we split the difference, bridge the Turkish-Armenian divide, and convene that great meeting atop the Holy Mountain. The meeting which will bring truth and justice and resolution. That will be the greatest monument to Hrant Dink, his life, his death, his legacy. That will be the redemption of Hrant Dink. Arjani Minassian.